What makes a character a sidekick? How do we define power? And why do some sidekicks become some of the most powerful characters in comics? Harley Quinn might seem like a weird one to have on this list, and yeah, I'll give you that. But while Harley has long been known as a villain, starting off as the Joker's girlfriend and sidekick, over the years she has redeemed herself and even has become a hero, I would say. In fact, more recently in the comics, I would have said she was actually a member of the Bat family, and kind of for a time one of Batman and Ghostmaker's sidekicks. Harley might just be a human, but she has some pretty powerful plot armor thanks to her being a fan favorite and some impressive skill sets. Definitely not a character that you would want to underestimate, trust me. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to let us know by clicking that subscribe button. Number 9. War Machine. War Machine is another one who might seem weird to think of as a sidekick, but when it comes to the Marvel Universe, we're a little bit limited in terms of the options that we have available for sidekicks. So for Marvel, we're going to be considering close partners and seconds in command as sidekicks, because really a sidekick is kind of just that, a close associate who doesn't hold as much authority as their other counterpart. Which is exactly where War Machine started when it came to his relationship to Tony Stark's Iron Man. In fact, when James Rhodes first met Stark, Iron Man had just built his first set of armor and was looking to return home. Rhodes helped him get safely back to the States, and Stark offered him a job, which he initially declined. However, Rhodes would later come to accept Stark's offer, becoming his employee, personal pilot, and close friend and confidant, with Stark eventually passing on his mantle to Rhodey for a time, and later making him his own set of War Machine armor and hoping that he would kind of take over the role of Iron Man. Didn't work out too well that time because Tony kind of pretended that he was dead and he wasn't dead, so yeah, Rhodey didn't like that too much. Number 8. Robin. But just which Robin are we talking about? Well, I think for our part 1, it's only fair that I include the first and possibly most iconic, possibly the best, some might say, Robin, for most of us anyways, I imagine, or for some of us, Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson would go on to become the hero Nightwing, but before that, he was Batman's literal sidekick, Robin. Robin, in fact, has been a name that Batman has continued to use when it comes to his sidekicks, which have continued to appear and take over throughout Batman's history. Grayson is probably one of the most well-rounded when it comes to his abilities and his skill set among his roster of Robins. And although he's just a man, that really is saying something, considering that oftentimes we compare Robins to Batman, who among base level humans in the DC universe could be considered as probably the most powerful there is. Number 7. Falcon. Sam Wilson is currently known in the comics as Captain America and recently rejoined up with the Avengers under this name. Recruited by new team leader Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. Between her, Steve, and Sam, there was a bit of confusion when using the term Cap. They have a little conversation in the newest Avengers series and gotta say it's pretty cute. Sam Wilson, however, became Captain America over time, but initially started out as Captain America's friend, ally, and partner, Falcon. To call him a sidekick honestly feels like a little bit of an understatement because, I mean, Sam Wilson, kind of like War Machine, kind of his own man in his own right, but compared to the leading star at the time in the comics of Steven Rogers, Falcon could be seen as such. After all, he was Steve's partner and Steve was kind of, you know, the more main character between them at the time. Number 6. Jubilee. Jubilee is one of my all-time favorite characters in the Marvel Universe and definitely in the realm of mutants. Honestly, maybe just one of my all-time favorite characters, like just in general, like even outside of comics, considering she was also one of my first cartoon crushes. She is a pretty powerful character too, and I know a lot of people think of Jubilee as the mutant who can create fireworks from her hands, but in reality she has a lot more going on than just that. What Jubilee is really doing with her abilities is happening at a molecular level, with her creating explosions that Emma Frost believed even had the potential to be subatomic, putting her at a potential nuclear level threat in terms of how much destruction and damage she could cause. And what's more, we even recently got to see Jubilee test this theory while aboard the Collector's Museum space vessel in Exterminators issue number 5, which actually came out earlier this year in 2023. Another reason I personally need to catch up on Exterminators. If you're also wondering why Jubilee is being considered as a sidekick, well, this is because she initially started out as kind of one of Wolverine's young proteges in the comics, even becoming jealous when he brought android disguised as little girl LCD into the fold. Number 5. Captain Marvel Bunny. Oh my gosh, Captain Marvel Bunny, here we go. How could I forget Hoppy? Hoppy is often the forgotten sidekick of the Shazam family for DC Comics. Hoppy is a bunny rabbit who also received the powers of Shazam. Known as Captain Marvel Bunny. He received his powers simply by uttering the word Shazam one day as he tried to emulate his favorite hero, Captain Marvel, who in his reality of Earth C+ was a fictional character. Hoppy has not only traveled to the pre-crisis Earth S to team up with the Marvel family, he also at one point teamed up with another bunny-themed hero from the DC multiverse, Captain Carrot, another often unsung hero. Hoppy also comes from the early days of Captain Marvel, back when Captain Marvel was still with his original publisher, Fawcett Comics. Although it might seem odd for me to put Captain Marvel Bunny above some of these other folks that I just talked about that are all really awesome, it is important to note that he has powers similar to Shazam, which oddly would make him kind of one of the more powerful sidekicks on this list, even though he is a bunny. Number 4. Rogue. Rogue is one of my all-time favorite characters, so of course I'm gonna have her on this list if I can, because I love talking about Rogue. And in a way, I kinda can have her on this list. She is another of Wolverine's young female mutant sidekicks, likely the most powerful of those that I've chosen to list here. Oddly enough, especially for a loner character like Logan, he has many young proteges. Rogue is impressive because she can basically do just about anything, considering that her mutant power allows her to adopt the mutant powers of others through a simple touch. Not only that, but she can also use her powers to drain the life energy, memories, powers, and even full-on consciousness in some cases of those around her. And now she has a lot more control over her abilities, which is great. Number 3. Wonder Girl. Wonder Girl! There have actually been a few to use this name in the comics, and each one has been sort of posed as the kind of like mini Wonder Woman. While generally Diana fights solo or with the Justice League, Wonder Girl has always been a character that I've thought of as Wonder Woman's sidekick, in the sense that the two characters usually have a mentor-mentee relationship with one another, with Diana often offering guidance when it comes to Wonder Girl's training. For this point, I'd like to focus on my favorite Wonder Girl, Donna Troy. Donna Troy in some respects is like an exact copy of Wonder Woman, which means she actually has a power set very similar to Diana's. However, she generally is known as being not quite as skilled as Diana is, which also makes sense considering that she's a bit younger and she doesn't have quite as impressive an arsenal of weapons and magical items at her disposal. However, she does have her lasso of persuasion, which can be used to encourage people to do what she asks of them, assuming her willpower is stronger than her target's. So it works a lot, but not all the time. Number 2. Kitty Pryde. To call Kitty a sidekick might seem weird, but when you think about it, for a long time she was basically like the little kid sister of the X-Men team. Not only that, but she is another of the chosen few that Wolverine decided to take under his wing. As we've already established, he's basically had a few young female sidekicks throughout the years. Wolverine may have even been one of the first reluctant daddy archetypes in mainstream media. Kitty Pryde is one of the most powerful of these female sidekicks that Wolverine has had, if you ask me. Her mutant powers allow her to phase through solid objects around her, and even have allowed her to float or fly in the past as well. Not only that, but Kitty can also extend her powers, using them to phase objects along with her and even other people. Oh yeah, and she can also like just phase parts of herself as well, so it's really useful in a fight. Makes her pretty much untouchable, but she'll definitely make contact with you. And I would not want to fight Kitty Pryde because, I mean, she was kind of trained in part by Wolverine. Number 1. Kid Flash. Kid Flash is probably one of the most powerful sidekicks around. I'm a huge Flash fan when it comes to that power set. I just think super speed is always one of the most superior powers out there. Like, it's either for me like something psionic or super speed. I'm just saying. It doesn't just give you the ability to run really fast, it also allows you to do so many things insanely fast. Super speed powers in the DC multiverse often are also connected with super genius levels of intelligence and the ability to time travel. Some can also phase as well. When it comes to Wally West as Kid Flash, he has a ton of abilities. He can do all that stuff and more. Now granted, when he was younger, he might not have been able to do all of these things, but currently his long list of abilities includes super fast healing, manipulating the air to create strong gusts of winds, traveling to other worlds and dimensions, phasing, and even healing others and creating energy constructs. Oh, and did I also mention that he's also like the fastest speedster out there? And he started as a sidekick, so I think that's pretty impressive.
Let's start off with a sidekick who may accidentally injure you even though he isn't trying to. In at number 10, Rick Jones from the Hulk. He first appeared in The Incredible Hulk #1 back in 1962, and actually causes the incident that leads to Dr. Bruce Banner becoming the Hulk. Rick is unique in that he helps multiple heroes. He's helped the Hulk, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Ron the Space Knight, just anyone. Rick just wants to be helpful. And to top it off, he often feels extremely guilty when he makes a mistake, regardless of whether it leads to serious consequences or not. And he does tend to make a fair few few of them. Rick just wants to help, but do you want him to help you? Most sidekicks stick to one person, but Rick hops around. On the one hand, that's a testament to his ability to create quick bonds, but on the other, it's kind of flighty, especially in the superhero world. I mean, Rick Jones already sounds like a superhero name. Come on, Rick, I believe in you. Don't let your dreams be dreams. You already have Spider-Man levels of guilt. Just do it.
Just do it!
Does being a sidekick for like 5 people make you the best? You decide. Someone loyally serving just one person in at number 9, Penny from Inspector Gadget. Now some of you may be saying, no, she's a deuteragonist, but to be a sidekick, you need to be a person's assistant or close associate, especially one who has less authority than that person. And as Inspector Gadget's niece, Penny falls nicely into that category. Penny first appears in the Inspector Gadget animated series, which began airing in 1983 and ran until 1986. Penny is highly intelligent and very fond of her bumbling uncle, and tends to solve all his cases for him. This frequently puts her in danger and of course leads to her and her dog Brain being captured, which is one of the rare times Inspector Gadget is competent. As time went on through the various series, Penny got more and more added to her personality, and by the 2015 series Inspector Gadget, she was promoted to protagonist. But sidekick or not, we all know Inspector Gadget couldn't do it without her, and she does it all without expecting any credit. What a champ. Just like our number 8, Tails from Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh, the days of Sega and Sonic, watching Tails slowly drift behind you on the screen as you went about your business collecting rings. Tails first appeared in the 1992 game Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and he came equipped with some different abilities, such as his ability to helicopter himself for short distances. Narratively, Miles Prower is Sonic's best friend and adopted younger brother. He was created by Yasushi Yamaguchi, at the time a main artist and zone designer for Sega's Sonic Dream Team. This was part of a company-based competition to design a sidekick for Sonic, which he ultimately won. Tails is meant to hold a deep admiration and respect for Sonic, and has become a key character in spin-offs such as animated series and comics. Someone whose admiration may be a little more misplaced in at number 7, Arthur from The Tick. Appearing in The Tick number 4 in 1989, Arthur was introduced as a more rational counterbalance to the more boisterous and manic Tick. Arthur loves the idea of being a superhero and using it to change his mundane existence, but working with the Tick is not exactly what he expected. Half the time, Arthur is left chasing after the Tick, or wondering if he's made the right choice. However, despite this, the Tick emboldens Arthur to try new things and achieve new heights. Literally. So the Tick does introduce Arthur to a new world, it's just not exactly what Arthur expected. Half assistant and half caretaker, Arthur's bizarre willingness to yield to the Tick's authority makes him all sidekick. Another dedicated sidekick in at number 6, Ron Stoppable from Kim Possible. The best friend of protagonist Kim Possible from the series Kim Possible that ran from 2002 to 2007, Kim Possible is a superhero-style dramedy with some fun satirical and parody elements. On top of being her best friend, Ron is down to help out with the superhero side game as much as he can. Even if he isn't the best at it, he's still competent, and he more than makes up for any inefficiencies with loyalty and support. Ron provides a unique sidekick component, the almost equal. He's not, because he can't call the shots and is happy to let Kim lead the way, but he has a lot to offer in the personal relationship department, to the point that by season 4, they actually become boyfriend and girlfriend. Which, I don't know, does that make it awkward? It could make it awkward. I don't want it to, but personally, I was always low-key shipping Kim and Senor Senior Jr., but I'm a strange person. Someone else not expecting or being offered any credit in at number 5, Pinky from Pinky and the Brain. These two first appeared as a segment of the Animaniacs in 1993, and were soon given their own series which ran from 1995 to 1998 and lasted 4 seasons. Pinky and the Brain were 2 genetically engineered laboratory mice, with one mission that they carry out every night: take over the world.
They're Pinky and the Brain, yes, Pinky and the Brain.
Brain is the Orson Welles-inspired mastermind of the outlandish plots, while Pinky is the slightly addled but still eager to help assistant. Pinky is there to help with every idea, no matter how outrageous, and even if he thinks it's a bad idea.
And Brain, brilliant! Oh wait, no. Isn't that horribly illegal?
In fact, some believe that it's really Pinky who's the genius, and not Brain.
Are you pondering what I'm pondering?
I think so, Brain, but I get all clammy inside the tent.
Regardless, poor Pinky is abused and smacked, but does his best to carry out Brain's schemes, even though he sometimes fumbles them. Still, a good sidekick is there with you through thick and thin, even when you're down.
pants with horizontal straps make me look chubby.
Just like our number 4, John Watson from Sherlock Holmes. Now before you go and get triggered, we're talking about the origin of Watson, all the way back in 1886, though the first story was published in 1887. That story being A Study in Scarlet. The author of the tales, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, describes Watson as a sidekick. He also points out that he was originally going to call him Ormond Sacker. I think we're all glad that didn't happen. Watson is Sherlock's friend, biographer, and a person who literally follows him around everywhere. Even after he gets married, he can still be summoned to go on an adventure. Set up as an outside observer, Watson is not oblivious to his friend's flaws, but boy will he try to justify them. Over time, Watson has become more of an equal, and scholars have come to study how accurate his narration can possibly be. But what remains true is these two are joined at the hip. Watson makes Sherlock Holmes better by his mere presence. He doesn't even have to say anything. And Watson both gains skills and employs his pre-existing ones during their cases. It would be a true partnership if Sherlock wasn't always telling him what to do all the time. Not that that dynamic is ineffective, as demonstrated by number 3, Cato from the Green Hornet. Cato made his first appearance on the radio during the Green Hornet serialized radio drama that ran during the 1930s. Valet to the Green Hornet Britt Reed and also his masked driver, Cato helped the Green Hornet in his various adventures. So to what do we owe this bond of loyalty? Well, Reed had saved Cato's life, at least originally. Like many characters, there are multiple origins, as well as for Cato ethnicities, as they changed his origin from Japanese at one point due to the Second World War. However, most are familiar with Cato as played by Bruce Lee in the television serial, which added a significant martial arts master slant to the character, to the point where it became assumed that Cato was probably more competent than the Green Hornet, a theme that was played out in the comedy adaptation released in 2011. Cato and the Green Hornet are synonymous with each other. You can't have one without the other. Which is another mark of a good sidekick. You have to associate them together and want to see them go on adventures. If you just want to save them a la Speedy, it's not gonna work. A partner some have mixed feelings about in at number 2. Robin, specifically Dick Grayson from Batman. Robin is literally from a different era, when sidekicks were cool and new, and not thought of as hokey and played out. He was first introduced in Detective Comics number 38 back in 1940 as an attempt to appeal to young readers. Robin's backstory is simple. Parents killed in an aerial circus accident, taken in by Bruce Wayne, and pulled into a world of vigilantism. Dick is the archetypical sidekick. He's extensively trained by the protagonist. At first, he's happy, obedient, and a good counterbalance. He's someone else to identify with. Over time, as the tone and perception of comics changed, so did Robin. He developed more of his own personality. He went through struggles. He even broke off and became his own hero. However, through it all, there was a loyalty and respect for his time as Robin, begrudging as it may have been. Because a good sidekick still has your back, even if they're also doing their own thing and your relationship has deteriorated significantly. Robin became a key part of the Batman mythos and continues to be so, up until this day, and a good part of that is the legacy of Dick Grayson. So if Robin is number 2, who is number 1? Kid Flash, specifically the first Wally West. Yes, there are 2 Wallys now. But we're talking about the first one, who appeared in The Flash number 110 in 1959, as the nephew of Iris West, who thanks to a freak accident while visiting Barry Allen is granted the exact same powers. While some may argue that Wally couldn't exist without Robin, Wally was very different, in that yes, his family was still alive, but they treated him very badly, and he came to look up to and idolize his eventual uncle and aunt, truly inspired by what the Flash represented. Wally and the Flash have an excellent relationship, with Wally not chafing under either the mantle of sidekick or the eventual handle of the Flash himself, which he takes on after the death of Barry Allen. This makes Wally the best sidekick. All his training, all the lessons he absorbed prepared him to be the very hero he was looking up to. It's one of the rare, truly positive sidekick-mentor relationships in comics, and shows that it can be a good experience too, not one just full of angst and stepped on boundaries. He's a good character and sidekick, all on a positive slant. Obviously, if you prefer angst, you'll prefer post-crisis Robin, but for those who want some happiness, Wally is the way to go. Wally is an excellent legacy character. It's great to see him back in Rebirth, and hopefully he doesn't go anywhere again anytime soon.
Number 10. Dog. Dog, spelled D-A-W-G, is the companion of Lobo over at DC. Mostly Lobo just tolerates Dog's presence though, and doesn't think of Dog as his own pet. Dog might look like the bulldogs of Earth, but he's actually an alien who just looks like a bulldog. He's known for being quite durable and, like Lobo, can survive in the vacuum of space. Dog also sometimes is seen smoking and was originally recognizable in the comics by his cross collar, which actually resembled the red iron cross, a symbol that Lobo also wore back then, so they had kind of like matching little necklaces. The modern version of Dog no longer appears to be associated with this symbol. Fans of Lobo might be fans of Dog, although it should be noted that in the original New Earth continuity, Lobo was actually the one who ended up killing that alien after Dog himself was possessed. Number 9. Comet the Super Horse. Comet is an interesting one and really ranks lower not because he lacks power, but because he's secretly actually a man. Or a centaur really. A centaur that was accidentally turned into a full-on horse by Circe, but who could also become a human whenever a magical comet flew by. While Comet made for a very useful and loyal animal sidekick to Supergirl, who also came with a slew of other abilities including flight, telepathy, and immortality, he also was kind of a creeper. You see, Byron, Comet's original name when he was a centaur, actually falls in love with Supergirl, and when he takes his human form for that short while, he decides to try and woo her. He becomes, I think his name is Bill Starr. He's a rodeo man. He rides the horses. He rides the bulls? What do people ride at rodeos? Bulls? I think bulls, I don't know. I've never been to a rodeo. Someone take me to a rodeo. Byron decides it's best if Supergirl never knows that he is actually also her horse. And I get it, you know, it's complicated. But still, that's pretty messed up, Byron. Like, you make a loyal animal sidekick, but not a very honest human love interest. Although I guess with Comet, you're like, I get a magical horse and I get a boyfriend, which maybe back in the day was like, I don't know, cool for girls of the time. They were like, I want a flying horse that can also turn into my boyfriend. What a weird time. Or maybe that's just what people thought girls wanted, I don't know. Number 8. Tippy Toe. I mean, you gotta give it up for Tippy Toe. Tippy Toe is Doreen Green's, aka Squirrel Girl's main animal sidekick currently in the comics. Before Tippy, it was Monkey Joe, and of course Squirrel Girl can have a whole team of squirrel sidekicks, if she wants to, as that's kind of her thing, communicating with squirrels and convincing them to team up with her. Really convincing many people to team up with her and be her friends. Tippy Toe is often recognized by her bright pink bow. She doesn't have any superpowers per se, but is a very smart, resourceful, and inspiring squirrel. She has demonstrated that she has skills as a leader, leading an entire squirrel army on Doreen's behalf. She's gone up against the likes of AIM and Thanos, and not only survived, but also helped to beat them too. Okay. Number 7. Eagly. One of the most ridiculous but quickly becoming one of the greatest animal sidekicks of all time is Eagly. Eagly is Peacemaker's sidekick in the DCEU. He appears in Peacemaker's HBO Max self-titled series. So far, Eagly has been a great companion to Peacemaker. We've seen Peacemaker use his animal sidekick to distract enemies, and have also seen that Peacemaker doesn't just see Eagly as his crime-fighting partner, but also very much as like his pet and his friend. Eagly also seems to be very well trained and to have a strong bond with Peacemaker. There is no doubt in my mind Eagly would probably do whatever Chris asked of him, and likely would fight just as hard and ruthlessly in Peacemaker's fight for peace. Eagly the Eagle, what a great name. Number 6. Jeff the Landshark. Jeffrey the Landshark is definitely one of my all-time personal favorite animal sidekicks in the Marvel Universe. I honestly would have ranked him higher if there weren't so many star animal sidekicks on this list. For me, in my heart, he is number 1, but I felt weird giving the number 1 spot to Jeff because there's so many other really awesome ones too. Technically, Jeff is a little monster, not quite an animal, but he's animal-like enough for me to put him on this list, so just roll with it. Jeff has been the partner to Gwenpool, Elsa Bloodstone, Deadpool, and most recently Kate Bishop's Hawkeye in his own self-titled series, Marvel Infinity webtoon series, It's Jeff. Also, if you haven't read It's Jeff by Kelly Thompson and Guri Hiru, you need to pause this video and go scroll through at least one issue on the Marvel Unlimited app. You can start with issue 1 if you want. All the issues are great though, honestly, so you can't really start in a wrong spot. Then you can come back and resume watching. And if you fell in love with that series, like me, there is going to be a follow-up one this year, so don't worry, Marvel has even more Jeff coming your way. Number 5. Red Wing. Red Wing is the animal companion of Sam Wilson. In the series Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney+, the Falcon we know as Red Wing in the comics was swapped out for a drone companion, which also shares the name of its 616 counterpart. Red Wing was actually the reason that we thought for a hot minute that Sam himself might be a mutant, and the reason that Sam questioned his origin and with it, his potential power set. You see, Wilson and Red Wing could actually communicate telepathically, which Sam thought could be as a result of latent mutant powers emerging. In reality, their telepathic link was actually a result of the machinations of the evil Red Skull. It turned out this link was created using the Cosmic Cube. To this day though, Sam still has a telepathic link with Red Wing, and Red Wing still fights by Wilson's side, even during his time in the comics as Captain America. And probably his future time as Captain America, since he's probably going to be returning to that role. Yay! Number 4. Topo. Topo was Aquaman's ally and pet back in the New Earth continuity. Topo is an octopus, or at least he was an octopus originally. The Prime Earth version of him looks a bit more like a cuttlefish octo hybrid to me, but based on his tentacles, I think he's still meant to be an octopus, just a much more giant octopus in comparison to the original. Or maybe the original one just got real big in this universe. The New Earth version of Topo was a purple octopus who is known for his superior dexterity with his tentacles and his super strength. Aside from those more unique traits, he also had all the abilities of a regular octopus. In the Prime Earth continuity, Topo was called upon to help King Arthur, aka Aquaman, to defend Atlantis, and later on to help him infiltrate it during his exile. He's great. Number 3. Lockjaw. Lockjaw has to be one of the best animal sidekicks around, simply because he also happens to be one of the most powerful out there. Lockjaw is the animal companion of Black Bolt, king of the Inhumans, but he also serves and is a member of the Inhuman royal family. He's a big teleporting doggo who represents a bulldog, and like the other Inhumans, gets his powers from the Terrigen mists and process of Terrigenesis. Having a teleporting dog would definitely be one of the coolest and most useful things. Teleportation is rad. When it comes to Lockjaw's range and capabilities, by the way, he's a powerful teleporter just in regards to the Marvel Universe, not even just like in regards to animals in the Marvel Universe. He can teleport you all the way into space and can even take you to other dimensions. Number 2. Ace the Bat Hound. Honestly, we could probably just have a list of best doggo sidekicks. There are lots of them in the comic book world. I'm not sure actually if there are more monkeys / gorillas / apes or more dogs, but I bet it's pretty close between those two categories. Ace the Bat Hound wasn't actually really Bruce's dog, but instead was a dog that Batman and Robin found and then decided to adopt to use in a case, getting his help to locate his owner who had been kidnapped. Ace proved to be a heroic dog, and as such Ace became the Bat Hound, until he was returned to his rescued owner. Even after Ace would occasionally be called upon to help Batman in his time of need, with the given excuse of Bruce Wayne claiming he just really liked having the animal around and wanted to have him visit Wayne Manor every now and then because he was good company, which his rightful owner actually agreed to. During Rebirth in the 2016 Batman series, Ace's backstory was changed and the doggo gets a super sweet and heartbreaking origin story. Here the dog suffered trauma at the hands of the Joker, being made into one of his pets and then basically abandoned by the Joker. Alfred pities the dog, who was dressed up as an Ace card when found initially. Alfred takes in and trains Ace, rescuing Ace and turning the doggo into a good boy, intended as a holiday gift for Bruce. Although that part of Ace's story goes right over Bruce's head. He's like, "You didn't get me a gift, Alfred." Alfred's like, "I mean, I just trained this dog and it was a lot of work, but sure, yeah, I forgot to get you a gift, Bruce. Thanks." Number 1. Lockheed. Lockheed obviously is one of my all-time favorite animal companions, and there are surprisingly a lot of them that I was able to reminisce about while writing this list, and a lot of them that I love, many who didn't even make my cut this time around, but honestly who still deserve to. But above them all, in my mind, is Lockheed. Though to be honest, the question of which Lock is the best from Marvel between Lockheed and Lockjaw is a pretty intense debate. Both are great animal sidekicks, and Lockjaw is just super OP as a teleporter in general. Lockheed isn't technically an animal, and isn't as powerful as Inhuman's best friend Lockjaw, but what he lacks in power, he makes up for in heart and in stealthiness. Lockheed was actually once an agent of S.W.O.R.D. and was basically Abigail Brand's undercover agent who was secretly keeping an eye on the X-Men at the time. However, Lockheed still will probably always remain most loyal to his bestie, Kitty Pryde, aka Captain Kate. He would defend her to the ends of the earth and actually left his homeworld, his civilization, and his fiancée behind just to go on adventures with Kate. He's like a little space dragon, which I guess makes Kate Marvel's Mother of Dragons. Either Kate or Jubilee I think deserves that title. Or both of them can share it, I'm fine with that. Since Jubilee's son is also literally kind of a dragon. Number 10. Bob. Bob Dobalina, known simply as Bob, was an agent of Hydra who was first introduced in Cable and Deadpool issue 38. He actually only became an agent of Hydra because he was bullied into it by his wife, and because he found the appeal of a dental plan and stability offered by Hydra to be appealing. Unfortunately, during his time with Hydra, he ended up running into and being confronted by Deadpool, who then coerced him into betraying Hydra, forcing Bob to become his sidekick. I feel like that was an unlucky day for Bob. Also, Bob gets bullied by like a mini Deadpool. Like, Deadpool is shrunk at this point. And Deadpool's so dangerous, he can threaten you with a card. That is what I learned in that issue where Bob appears. Number 9. Jackson Hyde. The New Earth version of Jackson Hyde was also known by his true name, Calderon. He first appeared in Brightest Day, issue number 4. Raised by adoptive parents, Jackson was taught to fear and distance himself from the water, due to the fact that his parents were tasked from protecting him from his biological parents, mostly his villainous father, Black Manta. Jackson Hyde would later go on to become Aquaman's sidekick, Aqualad, and Aquaman would seek him out in order to protect him from Siren and her death squad. His New 52 version has a similar backstory, though he was raised by his biological mother alone instead, but is also known for being openly gay and is sometimes a member of the Teen Titans. I think either way he's a pretty cool character. Both versions of Jackson Hyde are good. Number 8. Bluebird. Harper Row was first introduced in Batman Volume 2, issue 11. She would end up becoming a sidekick of Batman's and a member of the Bat family, taking up the mantle Bluebird. Growing up, her dad was often absent and was notorious for breaking things whenever he actually was around the house. As such, Harper took it upon herself to become a fixer of things, and in doing so, ended up becoming a master at electrical engineering. During DC's rebirth, she ended up quitting the vigilante life, instead choosing to focus on her education in the engineering field, attending Gotham University, but still spending time with the members of the Bat family, just no longer as a fellow crime fighter. Just as a family member, which is super cute. I also love that she's like getting a university education. You don't see a lot of like vigilantes and superheroes and sidekicks actually doing that. Number 7, Alpha. Andrew Maguire was a student at the same school that Peter Parker had attended, but unlike Peter, it was not as well known for his academics. Instead, Andrew merely got by when it came to his grades. He was first introduced to us in Amazing Spider-Man issue 692, and would eventually go on to get kinetic energy manipulation powers, following his involvement in an accident at Horizon Labs. His powers would allow him to take kinetic energy and use it to enhance his physique in different ways, or grant him additional powers. He would take the codename Alpha, becoming Spider-Man's sidekick for a short while. Eventually, Spider-Man would find him to be too irresponsible for the job. So then he wouldn't be his sidekick anymore. Rough. Number 6, Wallace R. West / Kid Flash. Originally in New 52, this version of Wally West was introduced as what appeared to be the newest Flash and the new version of Wally, but fans missed the original Wally West so much that Wallace became a completely separate speedster altogether, instead of a replacement to New Earth Wally West. He is the son of Daniel West's Reverse Flash, but unlike his dad, would end up following in the footsteps of becoming a superhero rather than a supervillain. He was retconned to be the cousin of the original Wally West, and after helping to defeat Godspeed, would become the new Kid Flash to Barry Allen's Flash. Number 5, The Signal. I swear, Batman has more sidekicks than any other superhero around. Then I feel like maybe all the superheroes combined. He goes through them like crazy. The Bat family is huge. The Signal is another such sidekick of Batman's, also known as Duke Thomas. The Signal was the leader of the We Are Robin movement in Gotham, which was formed of a bunch of teens who aimed to fight for their city, while Batman was MIA. Duke was inspired to create the movement after his parents were turned insane by the Joker. Batman actually tried to save them, but unfortunately he couldn't. Save their lives. Duke then ended up going solo after the movement disbanded, later being offered a place in the Bat family where he would train alongside Batman himself. Duke's only conditions were, ironically, that he didn't want to become another one of Batman's Robins. Which is funny because he was the leader of the, the We Are Robin movement. So, it's kind of funny. Number 4, John Kent. Not to be confused with Clark's dad, this Jonathan is the true natural-born son of Clark Kent, Superman, and his longtime love, Lois Lane. He was first introduced in Convergence Superman issue number 2, as a little wee baby. The cool thing about this version of Superboy is because John was actually around the same age as Batman's son, Damian Wayne, we got to see lots of fun moments involving these two growing up together and teaming up together despite their differences, becoming friends like their dads. Which was cute. They were even known as the Superboys for a time. However, a trip to space for John would rob us of the continued adventure of these two Superboys. And later, Superboy would return to Earth all grown up because space travel. Wah, wah, wah. Can't people stay kids in comics for a while? Why has everyone always gotta grow up? Number 3, Spider Bite. Nathan is a young one who is introduced in the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man series, issue number 6. He is one of Spider-Man's biggest fans and dreamt of becoming Spidey's sidekick. In issue number 6, we see a day in his life as Spider-Man's sidekick, taking on one of the biggest supervillain squads ever, the Sinister 60, and fighting against Stiltman. In the end, it's revealed that Spider-Man was just playing pretend with young Nathan, who was actually a cancer patient at the hospital. Spider-Man actually came to the hospital to play with Nathan and make his wish come true, because his real wish was that he just wanted to be Spider-Man. Some real-world heroics type stuff here. At the end of their day together, Nathan reveals he's afraid to go to sleep, and Spider-Man decides to take him out swinging around the city with him just for a little bit longer, giving Nathan a bit of extra time when it comes to being Spider-Man for the day. It's a super cute issue, and if you don't think this sidekick counts, I will fight you. Nathan's too cute, we gotta count him. Even if he was only a sidekick for a day. And even if it was pretend. I still want to count it. Number 2, Harley Quinn. Now I know what you're thinking, but wait a minute. Harley Quinn has been around forever. She's not new, and no longer is she really a sidekick. She's been here since the 90s, and she's not even a superhero sidekick. If she even was a sidekick. She's never been a superhero sidekick, right? Well, you might be right that she's been around for a while, but when it comes to being the sidekick of a superhero, it looks like this might be a credit that Harley will soon be able to add to her long resume of things that she can do. The possibility of Harley becoming Bat's sidekick was teased in the synopsis of the plot for issue 91 of volume 3 of Batman, but that came out in March and it didn't appear to happen just yet. Though the cover also teased us in regards to this pairing. Still, this doesn't mean that all that teasing was for naught, and it is possible we'll see this partnership finally officially come to fruition later in the series. I mean, they're both in the same thing and they're both dancing around doing stuff, so at least when it comes to this series, I'm really hoping this partnership becomes more official and DC wasn't just yanking our chains. Don't do that, DC, that's mean. Why you do that to me? Number 1, Children of the Atom. This new mutant superhero squad are rumored to be the new sidekicks for the X-Men. That's right, the X-Men, who have never really had sidekicks before. They won't be making their appearance until at least April of 2020, but they look promising. These youngsters appear to be teaming up with the X-Men, but also to have been inspired by some of your favorites in regards to the already existing members of the mutant community. This new team is supposed to be a team to speak sort of for fans of the X-Men squad as well, for us. Inspired by those of us who actually have posters of our fave X-Men in our bedrooms or, hung up in our apartments or houses. They aren't just junior X-Men, but they're actually kids themselves who admire and look up to the X-Men. They're fans. I imagine they might actually be made up of some of the younger mutant community who are itching to join the big fight, but were previously told that, the whole point of Krakoa would be so these youngsters wouldn't have to join the fight. Well, maybe things have become more dire. Number 10, Uncle Marvel. For those who are new to the DC Captain Marvel world and whose introduction to the character may have been with the first film, Shazam, you might not know about the extended members of the Shazam or Marvel family. But don't worry, we're here to make sure no one ever forgets. Uncle Marvel, you'd assume, was Billy Batson's uncle. But no, He actually claimed to be Mary Batson's uncle after discovering her superhero identity as Mary Marvel, but he really wasn't her uncle at all. Dudley H. Dudley was a civilian name, and he was originally the janitor at their school. Still, despite the fact that the Marvel team knew that Dudley was a fraud, or a dud if you will, who made up the story of being Mary's uncle simply so he could join them, they decided he was mostly harmless and enjoyed his company enough to accept him as Uncle Marvel, a portly older man with no powers who attributed his frequent power loss to his ever-flaring Shazambago. Ouch, my Shazambago.
Number 9. Sparky. Once a sidekick to one of DC's most underrated heroes, the original Blue Beetle, comes Sparkington J. Northrup, an American orphan who was adopted by Lord Wellington Northrup of Suppleshire, England. All was well and good with his life up until World War II, when Sparky was sent back to the US by his dad for safety, where he ended up becoming the sidekick of the hero Blue Beetle instead. Although he doesn't look like much, Sparky is actually a pretty decent fighter and was a huge asset during his time as Blue Beetle's sidekick. Described by Blue Beetle himself as a fighting, leaping little athlete on whom he can depend on for assistance at all times, it was really strange that he just kinda up and vanished from the series in 1942. However, he did show up again a year later to help the Beetle on the Western Front. Once the war was finally over though, Sparky was able to return to his home in England and retire from the hero business forever.
Number 8. Alpha. This Spider-Man sidekick happened to go to the same school as Peter Parker, and had a similar accident which granted him superpowers. However, he was known for being an underachiever with a C-grade average, and it was his laziness and lack of responsibility when it came to wielding his powers that prompted Spider-Man to remove Alpha's powers. Alpha originally became Spider-Man's sidekick after Spider-Man helped free him and his parents from Jackal, who had kinda hoped to take Alpha's powers for himself. It was after this encounter that Spider-Man both made him a sidekick and then kinda realized how irresponsible he was and decided to drain his powers using the villain Terminus's power siphoning staff. Slowly, Spider-Man would restore Alpha's powers over time. Alpha's civilian name is Andrew Maguire, no relation to Tobey Maguire, but his name does seem to be in honor of both Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, who had both played Spider-Man on the big screen previous to when his character was created.
Number 7. Nyx. Leaving Marvel and DC for a bit of a change, we're going to be taking a look at Image Comics' Carrie Andrews, the on-again, off-again sidekick and love interest of the anti-hero Spawn. Becoming a spellcaster by the age of 4, Carrie was originally just a witch who was interested in Spawn, who named herself Nyx after the powerful Greek goddess. With a vast array of magical abilities including retrocognition, sound manipulation, and a psychic link, Carrie has been a huge help to Al Simmons' Spawn whenever she is by his side. She even at times donned the Spawn costume herself, which gave her all the powers of the Hellspawn alongside her magical abilities. During her time as Al Simmons' sidekick, she journeyed through the pits of hell, was possessed by a demon, and was even depowered by mystical forces. But in the end, she did get them back and decided to leave Spawn altogether, succumbing to the guilt she felt from the time that she betrayed the man she loved. Man, if that ain't true love, I don't know what it is.
Number 6. Bob. Bob used to work as a Hydra agent and was basically forced into becoming Deadpool's sidekick when Deadpool infiltrated a Hydra base and ran into the poor goon. He has popped up here and thereafter in the Deadpool comics, often appearing as Deadpool's reluctant or sometimes over-enthused sidekick, often hoping that Deadpool will treat him better this time around, only to be disappointed. At one point, Deadpool bought himself a pirate ship and had Bob join him once more as his sidekick, which meant not that Bob got to dress up as a badass pirate, but instead was forced to wear a parrot costume and finish every sentence with a squawk. During his time serving Deadpool on the ship, he almost died of dehydration due to how stuffy and how hot it was inside that costume under the blazing Caribbean sun. Poor Bob.
Number 5. Doiby Dickles. Now if you're not familiar with the first Green Lantern Alan Scott, then you probably don't know who Charles Doiby Dickles is. But hey, that's okay, that's what I'm here for. Back in the golden age of comics, Alan Scott had Doiby join him on his adventures for pretty close to 8 years after Doiby saved him from a group of gangsters. Although he didn't possess any powers, Doiby is surprisingly badass, as not only was he a skilled fighter, he was an excellent driver and pilot. In his beloved taxi that he named Goitrude, he has driven Green Lantern around at lightning fast speeds, which honestly seems a little bit silly considering that Alan Scott could fly, but I don't know, maybe he got tired sometimes. Dickles has made several cameo appearances since his original run ended, mostly as a comedic relief character in the early 2000s. His most famous modern appearance was when he joined a group of other forgotten Golden Age sidekicks in order to form the hilariously inept group Old Justice. Now I personally would love to see more of him in the future, so DC, get on that.
Number 4. Tara. But not that Terra. This Terra is also known as Atli and is from an underground world known as Strata. Her and her people take it upon themselves to protect the Earth and its ecosystem. Atli herself was granted geokinetic powers which she uses to do this. Atli's powers are a genetic duplicate of the original Terra, who is often known for her ties to the Teen Titans, Tara Markov. Atli herself has teamed up with both Supergirl and Power Girl and has even allied herself with Harley Quinn, thinking she was doing good by helping Harley to steal from the Joker's vault. Which she sort of was.
Number 3. Zook. Now I don't know about you guys, but I find it really hard to believe that the stoic and pretty much emotionless Martian Manhunter had this little guy as a sidekick. Hailing from an alternate dimension, Zook is a member of the alien race known as, well, Zooks, and came to Earth alongside a few other evil aliens after a portal was opened. Zook met up with Martian Manhunter while he was trying to apprehend the two evil aliens and instantly took a liking to the hero. And I think the feeling was a bit mutual because when Zook was left stranded on Earth when the dimensional rift back to his home was closed prematurely, John Jones took him under his wing. Zook has a number of abilities thanks to his alien physiology. He can change his body temperature to be extremely hot or extremely cold, he can see through disguises no matter how complex, and can flatten or expand his body as a defense mechanism or to make him fit into tight spaces. Sadly though, he disappeared from the DC continuity after the events of Infinite Crisis.
Number 2. Spider-Bite. Spider-Bite is Spider-Man's biggest fan and pint-sized sidekick, who has only appeared in one comic, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue number 6 from 2019. He helped Spider-Man take on the Sinister 60, though this is later revealed to be a make-pretend adventure for Spider-Bite's benefit. In reality, Spider-Bite is Nathan, a young boy who's fighting cancer and whose one wish was to become Spider-Man's sidekick, which is why Spidey came to join him for this adventure-filled day. At the end of Spidey's visit, Nathan doesn't want Spidey to leave, as he's afraid if he goes to sleep, he may never wake up. Spider-Man agrees to extend his visit and takes Nathan out with him for a bit to swing around New York. Aww.
Number 1. Zack. Just Zack. Created solely for the 1980s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon comes Zack, a little boy who appeared for the first time in Season 3 Episode 26 entitled The Fifth Turtle. As the biggest self-proclaimed TMNT fan, Zack was so crazy about the Turtles that he took up arms with a hockey stick, tossed on a green bandana, and attempted to help them in their fight against crime. Now obviously the Turtles wanted absolutely nothing to do with the young crime fighter at first because, well, they didn't want him to get hurt, but when Zack was able to secretly follow them back to their lairs, they decided that he had what it took to be a part of the team, making him the fifth turtle. Although he's just a pretty average kid, Zack had a knack for solving mysteries and tracking down the bad guys, and across 4 seasons, he helped the Turtles go up against villains like the Rat King, Shredder, and even more. Although, he wasn't the best under interrogation though, since he was the only one not able to withstand the tickling interrogation, which, you know, I kinda understand because I'm pretty ticklish too.
Number 10. Scarlet. When Jason Todd's Red Hood first returned from the dead, he was much more villainous than he has since become. Yes, he was a vigilante, but in the context of the stories he was appearing in, he was a Batman villain. In Battle for the Cowl, he even tried to murder both Tim Drake and Dick Grayson. After Dick Grayson became the new Batman while Bruce Wayne was dead, Jason created a more flamboyant Red Hood costume and even took on a sidekick to help him in his insane and murderous war on crime. Sasha, otherwise known as Scarlet. Sasha was the daughter of one of Professor Pig's henchmen, who tried to leave Gotham when things were getting too intense. Pig found out about this and decided to capture the man and his daughter and turn them into members of his Dollatron minions. This process involved disfiguring surgeries and brainwashing. Her father was converted, but Pig was stopped before the process could be completed on her. She smothered her father in prison and was rescued by Jason, who took her on as his murderous sidekick. This career was short-lived, and she is not as effective as other sidekicks. However, she did manage to defeat and capture Damian Wayne through a strategic use of a taser and a knife. When Jason was defeated by Batman and Robin, Scarlet fled town, never to be seen again. Number 9. Harley Quinn. Harleen Quinzel was a psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum who fell in love with one of her patients, the Joker. He manipulated her into breaking him out of prison and joining him in a lifestyle of murder and mayhem. Harley meant nothing to the Joker, but he was able to use his manipulation skills to keep her around for years, being his most consistent and trusted assistant. She took on his clown gimmick as her own, through makeup or by a dip in a chemical bath, depending on the continuity. Despite being a psychiatrist, Harley is a skilled martial artist and acrobat, being able to defeat most of the foes she comes across with relative ease. She eventually realized realized how toxic her relationship with Joker was and went out on her own, eventually becoming more of an anti-hero at this point. Joker has since taken on a new protege, Punchline, but really, she's just a replacement Harley that DC created because they couldn't use Harley as a straight-up villain anymore, so why talk about it? Number 8. Talia al Ghul. Daughter of the infamous League of Assassins leader Ra's al Ghul, Talia witnessed the death of her mother and was put in the care of her father. Together, they traveled the world, and Talia was trained by her father to emulate his skills and intellect. She eventually fell in love with Batman, and Ra's orchestrated a false abduction of her and Robin in order to test Batman's skills and see if he would be a suitable heir. Batman, of course, refused to join forces with Ra's despite his feelings for Talia. Talia eventually became the heir and would go on to become the leader of the League of Assassins whenever Ra's is dead. Her and her father have a tense relationship due to her conflicting allegiances and his willingness to sacrifice her for the greater good if needed. She is the mother of Damian Wayne, Batman's biological son and the current Robin. Speaking of which, number 7. Injustice Nightwing. In the Injustice universe, Superman snaps and becomes a real dick. He decides that criminals cannot be allowed to live and sets about exterminating them. When he gets to Arkham Asylum to end the lives of its inmates, Superman is confronted by Batman, Damian's Robin, and Dick Grayson's Nightwing. Damian has always been the most bloodthirsty of the Robins since he was raised by assassins, and he actually has a higher body count than even the Red Hood. So perhaps it shouldn't be too surprising that he actually agreed with Superman that the criminals should be destroyed. This led to an argument with Nightwing that resulted in Damian throwing one of Nightwing's weapons at him. Damian expected him to dodge, but Dick was distracted because of the massive prison break that was happening, and it hit him in the head. He fell to the ground and broke his neck. Batman blamed Damian for Dick's death, because it was entirely his fault, and this led to their relationship becoming damaged to the point of no return, and Damian was taken under Superman's wing, and he eventually took up his fallen brother's mantle as the new Nightwing. This Damian considers Superman more of a father than Bruce ever was, but this is actually just a manipulation on Superman's part to get an ally who is well suited for helping him take out Batman. This is evidenced by how Superman sent the mass murderer Victor Zsasz after Alfred, knowing that Batman's refusal to kill Zsasz even after the death of Alfred would destroy any chance they had of fixing their relationship and solidify Damian's loyalty to him. Number 6. Karai. Last time I talked about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I got their names and weapons mixed up, because honestly, I never got into them as a kid, since, the cartoons stopped airing when I was 2. So I'll have to be careful with this one. Karai in the original comics is an agent of the Foot who comes to New York after the death of the Shredder and sorta takes things over. When the 2003 animated series, which I also never watched because I was strictly a Batman kid growing up, when that series came out, Karai was given more backstory. The audience learned that she was Shredder's adopted daughter who he had taken in and raised after she was abandoned by her parents. He trained her in ninjutsu and she became his most trusted follower, eventually being put in charge of the Japanese Foot Clan. In her appearances in other media in the years since, this new backstory is sometimes adopted, but it's interesting that her status as Shredder's sidekick or co-worker really just depends on which version you're exposed to. In the 2012 animated series, she can also spit venom and transform into a snake girl, so that's kind of fun. Number 5. Terra. Terra Markov was a member of the Teen Titans, but unbeknownst to her teammates, she was actually the protege of the team's arch-nemesis, Deathstroke. She was feeding information to Deathstroke, which he used to capture the Titans, but when Deathstroke's son, Jericho, used his powers of possession to use Deathstroke to free the Titans, Terra thought she was being betrayed by her mentor and snapped, collapsing the hive complex they were in down around her and crushing herself to death. Terra had the power of geokinesis, which means that she could earthbend. She used this power to throw rocks, which she could also sharpen to deadly points with her mind, and could even cause earthquakes at will. She could use this power to rip rock or earth from the ground, which she would stand on and cause to fly at great speeds, giving her the power of flight. Years after her death, she was made a member of the Black Lantern Corps, and her zombified corpse returned to life with the powers of a Black Lantern ring in addition to her usual power set. Number 4. Dex-Starr. Dex-Starr started life as a stray cat in Brooklyn. He was adopted by a woman who took him in and gave him a pretty wonderful life full of love and yarn. When his owner passed away in a home invasion gone wrong, Dex found himself back on the streets. When two rather cruel humans decided to have some fun by putting him in a sack and throwing him off of a bridge, a Red Lantern ring, sensing the rage in the cat's heart, granted Dex the powers of a Red Lantern. Dex-Starr has since become a regular member of the Red Lantern Corps and is probably the most powerful cat in the DC universe. And don't underestimate dominate him. He is extremely brutal and violent and is responsible for the deaths of several humans, a Yellow Lantern, and at least one Black Lantern. Although he has sworn vengeance for the life of his original owner, he still enjoys a good cuddle from his new master, Atrocitus. Despite Atrocitus's typical brutality, he shows a real soft spot for his cat, often referring to him as a good kitty, and flying into a rage if anyone hurts him. Normally I'd say this makes Dex a pet, not a sidekick, but I think he qualifies as both. I mean, Superboy's sidekick for years was Crypto the Superdog, so I think this counts. Number 3. Inertia. Thaddeus Thawne is a clone made up of Thawne and Bart Allen's DNA in the 30th century. His power is to slow down time around him, giving him the appearance of super speed. He operates as an independent villain for the various Flashes, even managing to kill Impulse before being captured by Wally West, who slowed him down to the point where he was essentially a statue, which Wally then put on display at the Flash Museum, forced to look at a statue of the speedster hero he'd killed for the rest of time. He was eventually freed by Hunter Zolomon, aka Zoom. Zoom then took Inertia under his wing, renaming him Kid Zoom. Although very powerful, his time as Kid Zoom was cut short when he killed Weather Wizard's son, resulting in the Rogues teaming up and taking him out with extreme prejudice. Number 2. Christoph Bernard. When Dr. Doom returned to Latveria in Fantastic Four number 247, he discovered that a revolution had taken place, and he had been replaced by a man named Zorba Fortunov. He came across a young boy named Christoph and his mother, who were still loyal to their former leader. Christoph's mother was killed by a robot, and once he had regained control of his homeland, Dr. Doom took in Christoph, raised him, and eventually made him his heir. Christoph is a super genius, much like his teacher, having a knowledge of science and magic that apparently rivals even the original Doom. When Doom was killed in battle, Christoph was made the new Dr. Doom, but the Doom bots transferred Doom's memories into Christoph, making him think that he was the real Doom. This of course led to trouble when the real Doom returned, and upon defeating Christoph, Doom had him deposed and sent into exile. But the two eventually patched things up, with Christoph stepping in as Latveria's interim leader whenever Von Doom is unavailable. Number 1. Nimona. Nimona is the lead character of the graphic novel of the same name by N.D. Stevenson. It tells the story of a young girl who decides that she wants to be the sidekick of the greatest villain in the realm, Ballister Blackheart. She has magical powers that allow her to shapeshift. She can use this power to disguise herself as someone else, or to become any animal she wants. She's only limited in the fact that the animal has to be a real creature, but that's not much of a limit, as she lives in a world where dragons are real. She also has an incredible healing factor, having healed arrow wounds and a decapitated head with little to no trouble. The story soon goes in a direction where it is clear that Blackheart and Nimona are operating as villains in order to liberate their homeland from an evil dictatorship, which of course opens up a lot of thematic ideas of what actually makes people villains, but it is a cool read that has been adapted into an animated Netflix film which is scheduled to be released sometime this year.